From Swoop, it's Take the Plunge, a podcast about how business owners decided to stop what they were doing and took the plunge to start their own businesses. We take a look at how they came to that decision and what those first crucial steps were in getting their business up and running. My name's Kieran and I'll be your host for this episode. Here's what you can expect on today's episode.
The traditional recruitment model is very expensive and it doesn't ever work in partnership with the business, because the whole premise of a recruiter is unfortunately try and drive the salary up, because that's how you get paid more of a fee.
Today I'm delighted to be joined by Ross Summers, founder and CEO of Talent Crunch. Talent Crunch is your one-stop shop for talent scaling, fostering a unique approach which establishes a complete solution with the flexibility to evolve as your business does. You're very welcome, Ross. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, very good, Kieran. Great to see you.
Lovely to see you too. So Ross, if you wouldn't mind going back to what you were doing before Talent Crunch and letting me know what that was and then why you decided to, I suppose, stop doing that and decide to take the plunge in terms of setting up your own business.
So prior to Talent Crunch, I was at a business called Lorien, which is a large tech recruitment business, part of a much bigger group called Ep.10. So it was very much a corporate business. You know, working with a corporate within a corporate, as I think you and anyone who's listening will understand, has some great positives, but also there's kind of there can be a lot of negatives. So for me, it was kind of the restrictions that there were within a corporate. And before that, I'd actually been at a PE-backed business, which had one kind of majority investor, and before that, actually an independent business. So I kind of almost had a nice flavour of all three, and always wanted to run my own business and have my own destiny, I guess, in my hands. And a couple of times I thought I had, especially with a PE-backed business. I think I felt like I had a lot of autonomy, but actually, you know, the private equity business that was involved with that actually had kind of the main say. So I'd always wanted to do it, and I'd always wanted also to do something different within recruitment. So for me, recruitment is a very dated model. The way that it operates is very inefficient. It doesn't really give clients that we're working with a lot of value. So the kind of old school model of a percentage of salary is not how I'd ever wanted to work. And I always like working with tech startups and tech scale-ups, exciting businesses. You know, the future of kind of any technology. We work with crypto businesses now. We work with some really exciting kind of fintechs. Is an exciting business to be within. But equally, I wanted to develop a model that actually would help these businesses scale and grow. And I didn't think I could do that within a corporate business. So start of the pandemic, you know, what better time to kind of go and launch your own business? I started having conversations with investors about how, because I wanted to launch this business, but I wanted to scale it quite quickly and hire people and kind of have the backing behind me to be able to do it. So I was having multiple conversations with investors, whilst also thinking, you know, did I want to go and head up another business somewhere else? So it was in my mind, do I go and kind of be an MD of another business and do something different with a slightly more independent model, or do I do it myself? But the thing that actually tipped it was one business where I actually had an offer to be the MD of that business, and they asked me to create the business model for the next 3 years, and that just solidified it in my mind to go, well, here's the plan for this business for 3 years. What I should do it myself. So, you know, I guess in relation to this podcast, I took the plunge, and I spoke to 3 different investors and chose the guys that I went with to kind of back me to go with it. And that was 9 months ago. And so, yeah, it's been a pretty interesting journey since then.
So Ross, I suppose one of the hardest things when you're starting up your own business is trying to get the investment to get you up and running. What was your experience like in trying to land that investment, and how did it affect your timelines?
In terms of the timelines, it did fall in line with where I kind of wanted to go to. So actually the timelines worked pretty well for me in terms of getting the investment. So I didn't pitch to a lot of people. So I think that was one key thing. I didn't kind of send a deck out to 100, 200 VCs and kind of hope to kind of hear back. I went specifically for people in my industry. So people within the recruitment industry that were already kind of not necessarily big players, but were either investors in recruitment or were large recruitment businesses that wanted to kind of incubate and invest in businesses. And my focus was kind of pitching to those guys because that I knew were probably a little bit they had an appetite for investment and to do something a little bit new and a little bit interesting. And being the space that we're in, we're in the tech startup space. Also, I think a key thing for me was looking at that market and looking at, even within the pandemic, how much investment still went into that market. So for the investors to invest in me, they obviously want a market that's big and really investable. So I think making sure I knew exactly who I needed to pitch to and doing the research to understand, don't just send your deck out everywhere, like really hone in on a few people, and then practicing that pitch, practicing that deck with my wife, making sure I knew exactly how I was going to deliver that, because as you know, and it's not just about your business and the product, it's about the pitch. And it's about engaging those people so that they feel excited that you're going to deliver returns on investment. So that was a big part for me, kind of making sure it was really engaging and that I could engage people.
And did you leverage like the SEIS or EIS investment scheme in terms of taking on investment, or did you just take?
So it was primarily debt and equity.
Okay. So you did like convertible loan notes, or did you?
So we kind of taken debt pretty much from the start.
Nice. And how was that as a kind of a new startup owner? Was that a daunting experience, or just you're confident?
I think I was confident in the plan and being able to get clients quickly. So that was the real focus. So
yeah,
build a brand that has, that's kind of engaging. That was kind of first part, and make sure we've got the market fit, which we know from the research. There's definitely kind of a big market for, one, our model of recruitment, and two, the market that we're in. And then, sales and new business, that had to be the focus for us, because we're not necessarily product led. We have kind of a SaaS model, I guess, in terms of our subscription, but it was really kind of focused on new business and talent. Interestingly, bringing people into the business, which is the hardest part of the job, which is what we do.
I suppose about just talking into the talent side of things. Who were the first couple of people when you were getting up on operational, and what were the kind of roles that you were looking for?
So the first 3 were all experienced. So they've all got kind of a minimum of 7 to 10 years experience in tech recruitment, which is really important. And they had things that I didn't. So that was really important. They are all stronger in areas that I'm not so strong in. And so I didn't, for me, the new business sales and kind of outward focus part of the business is where I sit quite well. And these guys are much, all of the people that have come into the business have been fantastic, brought into me for some reason, and the journey that we're going on, and have kind of a mix of skills that I'm not so strong in. And I think for anyone that I would say, when you're bringing in your first 3 or 4 people into the business, who are those critical hires, it's looking at, there's no point in bringing in 3 more U's, because it's not going to help diversify the business and grow it out.
Yeah. And in terms of kind of like 3 more U's, do you mean like that in terms of skill set or personality type, or are you looking constantly for a different mix?
I think a mix of all of that. I think you've got to, there's got to be an attitude and a mindset that's the same or similar. You've all got to kind of want to work in a startup. You've got to want to do the hours that you need to put in, and the challenges that come with it, where stuff doesn't work and you need to go again, and all the things that you've got to experience. But you've got to kind of, I think, have a mix of different personality traits and skills to make it work.
And you talked a little bit about the start about kind of disrupting the classic recruitment model and targeting that against startups and scale-ups. How did you kind of come to that kind of solution, and kind of talk me through that process?
So the first key hires in any startup, and then even moving into kind of a scale-up, the hires make a real difference. Previous to this, one of the brands we worked with was a huge global brand. My previous business did 550 hires for them a year, purely in tech. That's a huge amount, and one hire doesn't make a huge difference to that particular brand. However, if you're a 10-person tech startup and you're hiring your first developer outside of your network of people that you normally would know and bring in, that's a really key hire. And the traditional recruitment model is very expensive. and it doesn't ever work in partnership with the business, because the whole premise of a recruiter is unfortunately try and drive the salary up, because that's how you get paid more of a fee. And it's also inherently an ineffective model. So to give you an idea, recruitment businesses generally contingent recruitment, where you pay when you find someone, fill 1 in 5 of the jobs that they're working on. So any recruiter, 4 of the roles they're working, they're just not going to fill. So they have to drive the fees up higher. Whereas what we will do is go, right, okay, you need fantastic talent into your business because it makes a difference. But unfortunately, the first part is people don't know who you are yet. Let's look at how we engage this talent, because tech talent at the moment is in such high demand. They're getting contacted on a regular basis, these engineers and developers and product managers, product designers. So let's build your employer brand for you. Not necessarily all of it if you're a smaller business, but how are we actually going to engage people to really want to work in your business? And 9 times out of 10, that's the founder's story. Most people who are joining a small business to start with, it's about the founder. So we might do some video content, we might do some things to really make sure that stands out. And then we'll do the recruitment process for them. And we'll either do it in 2, so we actually run all of the interview process. So we'll do the first stage interviews via video link, so you don't have to do them yourself. And we'll kind of manage that entire process. And we'll do it for either, if you're a small business and you only need up to maybe 10 hires in a year, we'll do a fixed price. So it'll just be a set project fee where we'll do everything that I've kind of mentioned there. Or if it's a larger business and you're looking to kind of really scale, then we work on a subscription model where actually one of our businesses at the moment, 2 of our recruiters are actually on site as their talent team, doing, and because as I mentioned earlier, kind of a investment from a larger group. Within that, I've got a full marketing team and branding team that then can work with the marketing team in that business to build all of the things that we need to, and then help with kind of putting technology into the business, to CRM systems and ATS systems to be able to kind of track all of the candidates so that we can actually effectively be your internal talent team. And it's much more cost effective.
And you mentioned obviously how competitive is out there in terms of the technical talent, whether that's at a product design level or an engineering level. I'm sure it's the exact same though for recruiters, in that you've got quite a vast array of recruiters, recruiting platforms, who are all competing to, I suppose, own that relationship as well. So how do you constantly ensure that you've kind of got a steady supply of talent there that isn't too dormant, that is fresh, that is active? What does that look like for you guys?
It's a very good question. So we actually use a lot of the recruitment platforms that are out there as part of our model. So because we tend to be on site or we're working exclusively for a brand, we can actually use all of those platforms, not all of them, but a lot of the platforms that are out there as part of our product offering. And we then obviously, because we're acting on behalf of that brand, we are able to promote that brand, get that brand in front of talent. Because a lot of time when talent's going through a recruiter, one of the questions they'll ask is, who's the business, what do they do? And actually all of that is taken care of because we're effectively kind of the internal talent team. But we're constantly going out and speaking to people in the market, whether it's research. We're doing a piece at the moment around what is the process that developers would like to go through on an interview. Do you like a tech test? Do you like a pair programming test? What is it you'd like to do? So we're constantly speaking to good talent all the time and meeting them. But it's, there is a shortage of great people for a lot of different industries at the moment.
And actually, just on the kind of the shorter side of things, how have you noticed kind of the remote in-office technical talent going? Like, has that massively changed because of Brexit, COVID? What are you seeing in that space?
It's really changed. A lot of businesses now, their tech teams are completely remote across the UK, but equally now across Europe. So we've got businesses now that as long as people are within a 2-hour time zone, they're happy to hire completely across Europe. And it's interesting because it really opens up the talent pool. What we probably had 18 months ago was you would want people in the office, you'd look for talent in your location, whether it's London, Manchester, Belfast, whatever, you would look for people who can come into the office. Now, where people are looking completely across Europe primarily, so that the time difference isn't too big, it's opening people's eyes. And there are European countries where coding is taught as part of schooling. So you can find some brilliant talent that you just wouldn't have looked at previously.
And have you noticed any kind of patterns in terms of particular European countries that are particularly strong, or is it being kind of spread across kind of
It's
47?
pretty well spread, to be honest. I mean, some of the countries that have always been strong, kind of Germany, that always had kind of a lot, but then you've got a lot of countries like Poland, Serbia, Romania. There's some really interesting people coming across various different countries now, and that just opens up the talent pool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. And I suppose just kind of going back then to you setting up Get Going, in terms of winning those first clients, how was that experience, or you had them already good to go in the back pocket, or was it classic new business development, signing them up one by one?
One by one, signing them up. I had restrictions from where I'd left, so I couldn't touch any
Of
clients
course,
for
yeah.
6 months. So it was completely cold, new business, going out. Didn't really even have a website at the time. It's kind of a holding page. So it was just cold new business, going out and speaking to people, which is quite intense,
Yep.
but it still goes on. You know, you've always got to be looking for new clients and new business, and developing your products, offering to different people. So yeah, it was a lot of just new business for probably 3 months, pretty much full on.
Yeah. And then I suppose how do you straddle then kind of decisioning around kind of expansion whilst also building out your kind of roster of clients? Like how do you balance deciding, okay, I need to get more staff in, or I need to focus on the current, like what does that balance look like?
So to begin with, the original plan was to hire very quickly for us as a business.
Yeah.
But actually we kind of tempered that back slightly to go, let's get the clients on board that are manageable, and hire a couple of people in which will be able to kind of deal with it. Now we're at the stage where we're doing reasonably well. Things are growing,
Mm.
and I'm now hiring talent ahead of being able to deliver, because what we don't want to do is win clients and then not be able to deliver against that. We've
Yeah.
got enough kind of in the business at the moment to be able to hire and probably another 3 or 4 people. But it was a kind of really interesting balance, and there were definitely a couple of times either way where I was looking at going, we don't have enough people to service these clients, or we don't have enough clients to be able to service the
Yeah.
people that we've got. So it's a constant kind of balancing act. But I think a lot of it is about looking at what your pipeline is of potential clients, and just being able to forecast against that.
And like, is that particularly easy to do from a recruitment basis, or do you kind of know the signals or cues where you're like, that's like a 70% likelihood, or that's 25% likelihood, or is it just an ever changing science?
It's changing a lot, but because our model is all around being kind of project based, or we can predict, because we're working with our clients to help them develop their hiring plans, so we know how many hires they need to make, and obviously if they've had VC investment, then they should already have that pretty well mapped out, which we do help some of our clients with. So we roughly know how many hires we need to make, which means we know the headcount we need to put against that. But then equally,
Yeah.
the thing that we've been doing at the moment in the background, because even for us, talent and really good recruiters who know technology are very difficult to find. We're looking at tech platforms that can help with that. So AI, that can actually help us to find talent, as opposed to kind of having people doing some of the searching. I want people
Yeah.
speaking to people, because that can't be done, in my view, by kind of a automation. But actually, the searching side of things, there are some really good tools. So I'm doing a mix of kind of looking for talent for the business, and hopefully hiring another few people instantly, but also having some technology behind us that can help us scale.
Awesome. And I obviously, we were chatting and noticed you're back in the office there in Moorgate. What are your thoughts about kind of this virtual working, or getting people back into the office? How for your business do you see it working, and what would you like to see it look like?
So we're working a hybrid model. So we're in 2 or 3 days a week, but it's also, my view personally is it should be up to kind of the staff as to whether people want to come in or not. Some people work really well at home and don't like to be in the office. Other people like that environment. And I've got clients who have literally described our office as their hell. Having that kind of buzz and environment is absolutely not what they want. They like to they like to be kind of away from other people and kind of being able to do their work and get their heads down. And I think there's, even for me, I quite like having the balance of the two, where there's days when I am kind of locked in my office and days where I'm in the office here with the rest of the team. Personally, I go stir crazy if I'm at home 5 days a week. And I think when we were on full lockdown, I really wanted to get back into the office for a couple of days and see some other human beings, not just on a screen.
Yeah.
And being able to
Yeah.
meet clients again and have lunches and that sort of thing. So my personal view is that it should be a balanced hybrid model where if people want to come in, great, but you shouldn't be forcing people to come in because it should be a personal preference. We have one day
Yeah.
a month where we all come in, which is kind of like a monthly kickoff and talk about what's happening in the business and what we're going through at the time. So that's one day where I do say kind of everyone come in for that, but it's only once a month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose looking forward, you've obviously done an awesome job in getting the funding in, getting the talent in at your end, and building out a client book. How do you foresee the kind of business in the next stage of evolution in terms of what it looks like for you in the next 12 months?
A lot of change again. So we're going through a rebrand at the moment, which is really exciting. So we're actually looking at our brand positioning, looking at our products. It's a really competitive market. So our embedded model for tech startups and scale ups is very competitive. I think we've got some interesting edges, but it is a very competitive landscape. So we want to have a brand that really stands out. Then we want to look at location. So at the moment, we're all based dotted around the UK, but kind of some of our clients are European. We want to move into European countries as kind of locations and bases, and also across into the US, where obviously the tech market's huge. So for me, it's now looking at kind of the brand, our new business strategy, talent, and then also kind of territories and locations around the world, and then kind of a marketing stream that goes all below that. So pretty much everything over the next kind of 12 months. A bit going on, Kieran. That's keeping me busy, but all challenging. And I think that's the biggest thing for any kind of founder, and I'm sure you found it yourself, is I feel out of my comfort zone pretty much every single day.
Oh yeah, every minute.
And kind of question myself, am I doing this right? All these guys that are working for me trust me. Do I know what I'm doing? I'm not sure. So yeah, I think it's great, but there's the highs and lows of that, and I'm sure you found it as well. There's some great days where you win a new client, or you've hired someone brilliant that you've been after for a while, or some great wins, and then there's other days where it's like, how do I do this? I have no idea what I'm doing. But I think for me, the big help for me is in actually having some other people around me. So I've got a great non-exec director who's hugely experienced, and I can lean on to ask advice. So I definitely say that for other kind of founders is having a network of either other founders or non-exec directors or other experienced people to lean on, because there are days when it can be, as you know, quite a lonely time, even if you've got a business that's running with lots of people.
I think that's a really, really important point, and something kind of founders don't often think about, because rightly they're headstrong on kicking things off. But yeah, you probably do need counsel early days. Like sometimes people get, just my opinion, but get way ahead of themselves and start setting up these mad boards for like a startup business that doesn't even have 3 employees, and you're like a little bit over the top. But actually having, as you say, a couple of advisors that you can float ideas up, or gripes, or just talk through the painful moments, and often it's just having someone there that's done it and being reassuring and can rationalize with you when you're probably not being your most rational can definitely be incredibly useful.
Completely agree with you. Yeah, it's been a godsend for me. It's really helped on a few occasions where I've kind of been going, am I doing this right? I'm not sure. I think so, but actually, and I think those times where we've had some absolute fails where we were so excited about doing something and then it's just completely flopped, and you can look at it and go, I thought that was an amazing idea. And no one bought it. So I think it's just being able to kind of then one of my kind of values of the business is embracing change, which I just think you have to be able to do. And like with our clients and with you guys, if you've got something, you've got to trial it, test it, get it to market quick, see if something works, or even internal policies or whatever it might be, test things, try it out, and then if it works, great. If it fails, fail fast and go again. And just take those as learnings, because you're going to have a lot of them.
Absolutely. And then I suppose, because we would try and adopt similar kind of strategies to that. But then I suppose it's also educating culturally, internally. That's what you're doing, so people aren't like, what the fuck's going on here, or like, so as long as you get that experimental kind of culture through to people, I think it can be really, really beneficial, because then it starts to encourage more people to think in that way and to try things out. Because I don't know what it's like for you, but certainly for me, there's something more satisfying when someone comes to you with an amazing idea and then they go and absolutely nail it, and you're like, amazing, more of that, please. Wonderful.
100%, yeah. I think it's interestingly, so our values were something that I put together pretty much as soon as I launched the business. And idea generation is one of them, embracing change is another. I think they're so important that everyone has that opportunity, because as you said, it's not necessarily the founders that have to come up with all the ideas. In fact, it shouldn't be most of the time. And that's the exciting thing about it. When you're a fast-moving startup, you can try ideas out. When you're part of a big global corporate, you can't. Unfortunately, that's kind of the one of the great things of being at a startup, but it's also can be one of the negatives, that you're constantly changing things and trying new stuff out, and that can be quite tiring.
Absolutely. Well, Ross, I mean, it sounds like you've got absolutely the right attitude and abundance. So from our side, I couldn't wish you any more luck in your global domination across Europe and North America over the next 12 months. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on. It was so insightful to kind of hear you to walk through all aspects of the business and being so transparent. So I massively appreciate that, Ross. Thanks so much.
No worries, Kieran. Great to chat to you.